Liberty is like math, really. There's either a right answer or there is a wrong answer. That's because the underlying factors that define liberty never vary. They're constants. 1 + 1 = 2, and it never changes, whether the year is 1820 or 2020. Let's discuss the simple constant that I call the obligation of non-interference. When the government steps into any relationship between citizens, it is in essence interfering. The reasons they come up with in order to justify this interference may seem noble to some people, but it is interference nonetheless and goes against the very definition of liberty. In order to understand what I mean, we have to first establish that the entire legal authority the government originally had when it was established under the U.S. Constitution was limited to only that which you, the individual, had the authority to do, and therefore you convey that right to the government to do it for you on your behalf. For example, you have the authority, meaning you don't need permission from your neighbor or anyone else to defend yourself. So the government can take on that role if you give them the authority to do it for you. And this is how we get police and military authority. They exist in order to do something more efficiently than you can do yourself. You assign that duty to the fire department as well. You have the natural right to put out a fire, right, for your own property. So you delegate that potential task to the fire department because, well, they can do it much more efficiently than you can. We do this for many things. We allow the government to build infrastructure because it's much more efficient and supports the liberty of everyone when it is accomplished through the pooling of funds via a central authority. Eminent domain notwithstanding, but we'll discuss that in another video. But when the government uses its power to interfere between two citizens to tip the outcome to one party or another based on an arbitrary reason, or interferes between a citizen and a group of citizens, such as a corporation, by imposing its will and holding one party at gunpoint in favor of another, then liberty is being abrogated. And it doesn't matter how altruistic the outcome the government might think its interference will result in. Liberty isn't based on perceived or actual fairness. It's based on allowing the natural interaction of one party with another. Authoritative interference goes against the natural order of human existence. This particular episode of 5 Minutes of Liberty is referring to the law in California called AB5 and the subsequent ballot measure designed to fight the law called Prop 22. The law has been taken through the courts, and the courts so far have sided in favor of the state. The law forces companies like Uber and Lyft and other gig-related companies to classify the people with whom they contract as employees instead of independent contractors. Essentially, what this law does is use the police power of the state to bend the will of one party in favor of another because the government thinks it's fair. What it actually does is reduce the liberty of one party while at the same time creating favored status for another based on a perceived notion of fairness. And it uses interference to accomplish this goal. And it does all this at the end of a gun barrel. And if you don't think all actions by the government isn't accomplished at the end of a gun barrel, try to disobey government interference and see where you end up. Let's do the liberty math with this problem. And it's very simple math. The state should only have the right to do something that you as an individual can do without interfering with the rights of others. Do you have the right to tell another person or company to classify their employees a certain way? No. And neither should the government. The problem here, as with many liberty-related issues, is that America has moved so far away from the founding principles of liberty that much of the country now thinks it's perfectly normal and okay to use the police power of the state to dictate the relationship one person has with another when it comes to their employment status. And that's why I'm here, to make sure you know how wrong that notion is. Make sure you vote for candidates that come closer to understanding the role of government in your life. Not the perfect candidate, because there are no perfect candidates, but the one best positioned to fight that urge and, more importantly, has the best chance to win the election too. Because voting isn't a vanity project designed to convey how virtuous you are. It's designed to elect people to an office. Do not vote for someone that has no chance of winning. And if you're in California, vote yes on Prop 22. Thanks for stopping by. Please share, comment, and hit that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. And thank you for giving liberty a chance.